right, so get this, right. Remember, like, way back, early 2020, when, like, the world basically just kind of stopped.
Yeah.
Turns out the whole social distancing thing, staying home, all that, it did something kind of crazy to Seoul's air.
It did, yeah. There's this research paper we're diving into, and basically, these scientists in Seoul,
Yeah.
they got this, like, once-in-a-lifetime chance to study what happens when you basically slam the brakes on pollution in a megacity,
Wow. So, okay, I dove into this study, and it gets wild. First off, we're talking Seoul, South Korea.
Right.
This place is, like, infamous for smog, right?
Oh, yeah,
Like,
big time. It's a real issue.
so they're looking at all sorts of pollutants, but the big one, the main event is PM 2.5. That really nasty stuff gets in your lungs. And get this. After social distancing kicked in, Seoul's PM 2.5 levels, they dropped by 10.4%.
Yeah.
Now, I know what you're thinking, 10%. That doesn't sound like a lot, but hold on.
That's just it. In the 5 years before this whole thing, PM 2.5 levels at that same time of year, usually they went up.
Why?
Yeah, by an average of 23.7%.
Yeah.
So to see decrease at all, huge.
So it's like the city just, like, finally took a deep breath.
Exactly.
But here's where it gets even more interesting, okay? They found this drop in PM 2.5. It was way bigger on the weekends and holidays compared to, like, the weekdays during the social distancing.
Interesting.
What's that telling us?
Well, it kind of implies that maybe a good chunk of Seoul's, like, day-to-day PM 2.5 problem, it's not from some, like, giant factory or whatever. It's from us.
What?
Yeah, it's just us living our lives. All those cars going to work, school, errands, all of that adds up.
So you're saying my decision to work from home, like, actually helps?
Potentially.
I'm basically a hero for, like, staying in and watching TV on a Tuesday.
Hey, every little bit helps, right?
Okay, but wait, there's more. This study, they also found some parts of Seoul got way cleaner than others. It wasn't like this, citywide breath of fresh air. Some neighborhoods, they just got luckier, I guess.
Yeah, and that's where things get really interesting. See, the researchers, they think it's because people in different areas, they might have responded to social distancing, a little differently.
Interesting.
Like maybe some parts of Seoul have more businesses that were considered, like, essential. So they stayed open, all right? More people out and about.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and so you get these little microcosms of pollution, all based on how people were, living their lives at the time. It's really complex.
Even within one city, it's not all the same.
Exactly. This urban pollution thing, it's a puzzle, a big one, with lots of different pieces, no easy answers.
Okay, so we've talked PM 2.5, but this study, it looked at a bunch of other pollutants too, right?
It did.
What about, like, the nitrogen dioxide, the carbon monoxide? What happened to those during, like, the big shutdown?
Okay, so those two, nitrogen dioxide, NO2 as it's called, and the carbon monoxide, or CO,
Right.
those are pretty directly tied to car emissions.
Makes sense.
So just like with the PM 2.5, they found that both of those, the NO2 and CO levels, they went down during this whole social distancing period.
So less traffic, less of those pollutants. Makes sense to me.
It tracks, right?
But I do have a question kind of burning a hole in my brain here.
Shoot.
They looked at ozone too, right? What happened there?
Ah, yes, ozone. That's where things get a little, shall we say, counterintuitive.
Uh-oh.
They actually saw an increase in ozone levels during social distancing.
Wait, so less pollution overall, but more ozone. How does that happen?
It's all about the chemistry, you see.
Okay.
Ozone formation, it's a whole process. Kind of complicated, but one of the things involved is actually nitrogen oxides.
Really?
Yeah, so under normal circumstances, nitrogen oxides can actually help break down ozone, in the lower atmosphere at least.
So less traffic means less nitrogen oxides being pumped out, which means less of that ozone busting effect.
Bingo. Social distancing might have accidentally given us, at least temporarily, more ozone at ground level. And that, unfortunately, is not what we want.
Not good at all. So it's like this trade-off. You try to fix one thing, and it's like dominoes. The environment is really all connected.
Exactly. You tweak one thing, and it can have ripple effects you never would have predicted. Fascinating, isn't it?
It really is. Kind of terrifying, but fascinating. But, okay, this whole study, it's just Seoul, right?
Right.
But air pollution, it doesn't just stop at the city limits.
Sadly, no.
Did they find anything that said what was happening in Seoul, like, might have been because of things happening outside the city?
That's a great question. And that's where we get into this whole other layer. Exactly. So to see the bigger picture, right? They looked at this thing. It's called aerosol optical depth.
Aerosol. Okay, hold on. In English, what is that?
So aerosol optical depth,
Right.
AOD.
Right.
Basically, imagine looking down at Earth from space.
Okay.
AOD tells you how hazy the air is,
Yeah.
like how much pollution is up there, in the whole atmosphere, not just at street level.
Oh, okay. So it's like a bird's eye view of the pollution.
It's exactly.
Okay, so what'd they see when they looked at Seoul?
So get this. During that same time period, social distancing, right?
Mm-hmm.
The AOD over a huge area west of Seoul,
Mm-hmm.
including parts of China, actually, it decreased.
Wait, hold on. You're telling me Seoul cleaning up its act could have been partly because of China?
It's possible. Now, we got to be careful here, right?
Okay.
AOD, it's affected by a lot of things, like obviously weather patterns, how far the wind carries pollution.
Right.
But when you look at the AOD data and like the wind patterns back then, seems like less industrial activity in those areas might have given Seoul a little boost.
So my working from home combined with whatever was going on in China at the time, that's what gave Seoul clear skies.
Potentially.
Right.
Because a complex system.
It makes you wonder, though, did it last?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right.
This study, they only looked at that very specific time, early 2020. Who knows what happened once things went back to, quote, normal?
Right, like did the PM 2.5 levels go back up? Did the ozone chill out? So many questions.
So many questions. We need way more research. It would be amazing to see, like, a follow-up. What happened in the years after this initial dip when everyone went back to their commutes and stuff?
Right. Like, imagine if there was this clear link between, like, remote work and actual long-term air quality improvement. What would that mean for city planning?
Oh, think about it. Cities designed around remote work, or public transit so good that nobody even wants to drive. This study, it might just be scratching the surface of like how we actually build healthier cities.
Cleaner air, healthier people, less traffic, all because we decided to stay home and binge watch some TV. Where do I sign up?
Right.
But okay, before we get too excited, let's like back up for a second to that whole regional thing. Clearly, whatever's going on with Seoul's air, it's not in a vacuum. It's all connected.
It is all connected.
Yeah.
Air pollution, it doesn't care about our little borders. What one country does, it can, and it does, drift right over to another. This study, if anything, it just highlights how important it is to think about air quality globally. Big picture.
It's like we're all sharing the same air, which I guess we are. Like literally, it's like that saying, right? We all live downstream.
Exactly.
What you do affects me. What I do affects you. Yeah, it's like we're all, I don't know, roommates in this giant house, planet Earth, stuck with the same air whether we like it or not.
Perfect analogy.
And some of us, like, they're not pulling their weight with the chores, you know?
Right. And just like with roommates, communication is key. If we actually want this to work, if we want clean air, we got to work together, right?
Right. It can't just be like one city going green while the smog rolls in from like next door. Global teamwork. This has been wild, by the way. Who knew a pandemic would give us this whole new way to think about air pollution?
It's been fascinating. Like this natural experiment, obviously awful circumstances.
Yeah.
But the data is there.
So interesting.
And, this Seoul study, it's just a starting point, really.
Oh.
There is so much more to learn about how, like, what we do, it ripples out, affects the whole planet, sometimes in ways we'd never even think about.
Makes you think twice about hitting that work from home button, huh?
Right.
Maybe I'm not just being lazy. Maybe I'm an air quality warrior.
There you go.
Okay. I'll stop patting myself on the back. But seriously, this deep dive into Seoul, super eye-opening. Big thanks to you for, breaking it all down with me.
Anytime. Happy to be here. It's always cool to see these connections,
Absolutely. And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Now, excuse me, I got to go check the air quality forecast for Beijing.